Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I've been lurking here for a few days. The story happened a few years ago, so some parts might be a bit off. I don't want to insult your intelligence when it comes to the entitled mother and kid in me, but I should note that FF stands for family friend, NG for nice gentleman, J stands for judge, and PO stands for police officer. The story. A family friend had invited me over to his house for a sleepover. I was 14 at the time, and he lived on a narrow no-through road in a quiet part of Adelaide. The family friend and I were playing cricket on the road, as I have a tendency to hit his tennis ball over the backyard fence. We were careful and aware of all the cars parked on the side of the road, so we had moved near the end of the road near the train tracks. Much didn't happen for about half an hour until the entitled kid decided to show up. He was a young boy, I'd say 9, who wasn't exactly the nicest to the family friend or his dog. We both said no to him joining in. The entitled kid rushes inside to tell his entitled mother. We hear her scream and says, "Let my little jerkwad play with you." We have to let this little jerk play with us now. We included him, but never let him bat, as he was too clumsy and nearly snapped it in two last time he played with us. He started complaining. We told him what happened last time he batted. He spit the dummy and ran back into his house. You don't see him for the rest of the story. I handed the bat to my family friend because I was more of a fan of bowling than batting. I had a really great idea at the time, and that was to bowl a Yorker. The ball lands really close to the batsman's feet. The family friend smashed the ball down the road and underneath a car, a small little hatchback. He goes underneath the car to look for it. He says, "I can't see it." "Well, we can take our time. Your neighbors are fine with this, right?" "Totally. Here, pass me the bat." He throws the bat over the car roof. What was that? I could have dropped it on the roof. I was lucky to have caught it. He snickers and says, "Well, good thing you didn't." I decided to lift up the bat in motion to hit the side mirrors, which I did slowly and left a huge gap between the end of the bat and the mirror. Still, wasn't the smartest idea, but not my dumbest. Fly screen door slams and the entitled mother approaches. The first whale I have seen in real life. Me thinking it's the kid who lived at the entitled mother's house. "Hey, can you get your mom to drive her car out of the way?" "What do you think you're doing? Trying to smash car mirrors now? Bullying my son? I'd expect something from an apple like you." I had slightly darker skin than usual from being outside a lot. I have nothing against aboriginals, I'm just writing what she said to the best of my ability. The entitled mother still screeching at the top of her lungs like she was the frontwoman of a metal band. "Give me the bat before I run you flat." I hand her the bat. My family friend tells her, "We lost our tennis ball somewhere underneath your car." "Yeah, it should be next to the back wheel." "Shut up! I can find it myself." She proceeds to struggle to find the ball. A few minutes have passed and she finally grabbed the ball, and she threw it onto the train tracks just as a train passed by, ripping the pole to shreds. Me and my friend looked at her in dismay. What the hell was that for? Punishment for vandalizing. Then she calls me an offensive term. My family friend tells her, "He's not aboriginal, you insensitive witch." Turns out this was the wrong thing to say. Big surprise, right? The entitled mother picks up the bat and with all her might throws a wooden cricket bat into the windscreen of a car on the opposite side of the road. Me and my friend grin while the entitled mother's jaw hit the floor. I suddenly realized that it was my friend's bat in the windscreen of his neighbor's car. He made a run for it while I stared at the woman in shock. I grabbed the wickets and ran off into the family friend's house. A few hours had passed and there was a knock at the door. My family friend's parents worked all day and always got home when it was dark around 7 p.m.-ish. Sometimes longer. I went to open the door and saw the police waiting at the door. "Good evening, officers." I tell them. "Are your family friend's name?" "No, I'm X. I'm staying over for the weekend." "Well, we've been told that you threw a cricket bat into a car's windshield." I asked him, "Should I get my friend?" And the officer answers me, "Yes." I proceeded to tell my friend everything that happened while he was in the bathroom. The entitled mother and the nice gentleman were standing beside the police by the time we got back. "Those are the boys that broke the nice gentleman's windscreen." Me and my friend in unison, "But you were the one that threw the bat." The nice gentleman was a close friend of my friend's parents and knew that he wouldn't do such a thing. We were taken in for questioning anyway. My parents and my friend's parents found out about this incident. The entitled mother said that we also threatened to hit her car too. We went over to the nice gentleman's house where he showed us that he had CCTV on the outside of his house. The entitled mother decided to press charges against us all and we had no evidence to deny this. But she had no evidence proving that we threw the bat. And here is where the nice gentleman turned into our savior. "Your Honor, I have evidence against what the entitled mother is saying." "Show me then." The judge tells him. The nice gentleman hands multiple pictures of the CCTV and his car to the judge. "That has to be forged. I did not throw the bat." She says, "Nonsense. You snatched the bat from my arms and threw it into the nice gentleman's windscreen." There was about an hour of a heated but somehow civil argument. The judge finally came down to a decision that me and the family friend were innocent and that the entitled mother was guilty of vandalism. We were able to get her to cough up enough money for the nice gentleman to get a nice brand new windscreen and tinting for every window. In conclusion, we had a close call and were lucky to not be guilty. I haven't played cricket since. This happened Friday night and I've been struggling to put into words just how insane it was. My ex-in-laws and my ex showed up at my job during the biggest event of the year. Every year at my job there is a Christmas-themed party. The dancers dress up as elves, my boss dresses up as Santa, the bartenders dress up as reindeer, and the bouncers dress up as snowmen. The place is beautifully decorated as a winter wonderland with a huge throne for my boss to sit on and custom poles for the dancers to dance around him. It's a huge thing at my job and it's always one of the highest grossing nights of the year. It is advertised all over town that people can come, get their pictures taken with us, sit on Santa's lap and enjoy a fun evening with custom Christmas music made by a DJ. We even have Christmas-themed drinks, guys, and they are so good. I was so excited for it because I started working there this year, so it was my first time being part of this event. I was dancing that evening, so I was dressed up as a sexy elf. I was feeling great, and it was pretty late into the evening. Around midnight when this incident took place. I was dancing on stage when out of nowhere, I heard the shrieking sound of my ex-mother-in-law's crying. I turned around and there they were. Ex-mother-in-law, ex-father-in-law and Bill. Ex-mother-in-law was slapping at Bill's arm and pointing at me. I couldn't make out what she was saying over the music. All I could hear was the shrill sound of her voice. I started looking around for Kyle, my boyfriend. I couldn't see him, but I did see other bouncers. So I waved at them, trying to get their attention. We have a special wave that when a bouncer sees it, they know to come running. Bill comes to the stage and starts shouting at me while the men around him are waving cash at me. He tells me to come down and to come with him, that I was bringing shame to his family. I ignored them. I saw a couple bouncers heading for us, so I kept dancing, believing I was saved. That was protocol. Call the bouncer and keep working to avoid making a scene. It was then I felt someone grab my ankle and pull. In my panic, I fell and let out a scream. I look up and it's Bill. He had pulled himself onto the stage and grabbed me. I started kicking at him with my other foot until the bouncers finally got there and pulled him away from me. I felt someone else grab me and I screamed again, but when I looked up I saw it was Kyle. Bill and my ex-in-laws were taken into the office, while I was taken backstage to ride out the panic attack. Kyle held me until I calmed down. The police were called and I got to watch as Bill was forced into the back of the police cruiser in handcuffs. He is being charged with public disturbance, assault, and trespassing. My boss was talking to my ex-in-laws, telling them not to come back and warning them the police would be called if they did. Despite how pissed he was, my boss was pretty calm and polite. I then heard my ex-mother-in-law shouting about how she was going to take me to court to take my children away from me because a godless witch like me wasn't fit to be a mother. I couldn't take hearing that, and I rushed at her. Kyle had to grab me and stop me, but I was screaming at her that she was a psychopath, and she would never get her hands on my kids again. That she had raised a lying, cheating, emotionally abusive scumbag, and that got her to raise a hand to slap me, but the bouncers and police got between us. She and my ex-father-in-law got into their car and drove off after being threatened with arrest. After calm had been restored, we all went back inside and resumed the party. I made good money that night. Even Samantha, my job's entitled gossip, couldn't deny what Bill and my ex-in-laws did was crazy. Over the weekend, I got a call from someone claiming to be Bill's ex-girlfriend, the one he cheated on me with. I asked her how she got my number and she said she had her ways. She said she decided to call me after Bill called her, begging to get bailed out. She told me that during their relationship, my ex-mother-in-law treated her like crap and compared me and her a lot and always acted like she wasn't good enough. She was relieved when they went to Greece, believing her and Bill's relationship could be salvaged at that point, but she was wrong. Bill would also talk about me a lot, and she was always crying about being compared to his ex. When I got the job at the club, his behavior became more erratic. She told me that she confronted him after he was thrown out of the club because word travels fast and she heard about the whole thing. He got pissed and slapped her and then threw her out of his house. She got him arrested and he was fired from his job as a result. I thanked her for the information and promptly told her to never call me again. She asked me why and I told her that she had no issue cheating with Bill and hurting his wife and kids, and that she was only calling me to get back at him for what he's done to her. I hung up and blocked her. I plan to go file for a restraining order today, but now I am armed with more information that will make the process so much easier and go so much faster. Win for me. Merry Christmas, everyone. Karen was an entitled woman who enjoyed looking down on others and feeling superior. One day, she decided to confront a group of veterans who were collecting donations for a charity fundraiser. As Karen approached the veterans, she sneered at them and told them they were wasting their time. "You should be grateful for the freedom I provide you," she said haughtily. "I'm the one who pays your salaries." The veterans who had served their country with honor and bravery were shocked and offended by Karen's words. One of them, a man named Jack, stepped forward and spoke up. "Ma'am, I appreciate your support, but we are not paid for our service. We serve our country out of a sense of duty and a desire to protect our fellow citizens," he said calmly. But Karen was not interested in listening to Jack's words. She continued to parade the veterans, raising her voice and causing a scene. Finally, one of the other veterans, a man named Dave, had had enough. He stood up and confronted Karen, telling her that she needed to show some respect. Karen, feeling threatened, swung at Dave and missed. Dave, who had learned some self-defense techniques during his time in the military, easily dodged Karen's attack and countered with a punch to her stomach. Karen crumbled to the ground, unconscious. The police were called and Karen was arrested and charged with assault. The veterans were hailed as heroes and their charity fundraiser was a huge success. They knew that, even in the face of entitlement and disrespect, it was important to remain calm and stand up for what was right. The entitled mother's boyfriend committed some fraud and needs a lawyer for their upcoming court hearing. She doesn't work, and she relies on her boyfriend to provide for living expenses. She gets some offers by mail from several different lawyers, and she calls them all for a quote and picks the cheapest one from the lot. She calls me and says she needs $1,000 now, And $2,000 later, I ask her to clarify and she says, $1,000 is for the lawyer, and $2,000 is for the fee for the community service program. The lawyer said they will get in lieu of jail time. It also seemed that $2,000 can be paid over time in installments. I know how much money the entitled mother's boyfriend makes, and it's very little, so I tell them that I will only give them $1,000 if they prove they first applied for a public defender, state-provided lawyer for those with low income. The entitled mother immediately calls the public defender's office and she says, I called and the lady was very nice. She asked for my information and I told her. And she said not to bother coming in for an interview because we make too much money. I asked her for proof to show you and she said there isn't any. This is ringing some alarm bells in my head because the site clearly says you need to come in for an in-person interview and bring documentation for all of your expenses and household size that they will take into consideration. I am pretty sure she's lying about the conversation, so I just tell her to go for an in-person appointment anyway. Now it's Sunday and the entitled mother says to her other child who lives near her, my boyfriend went for the in-person interview today and he was denied. He lost an hour of wages at work because of the time he had to take out of his day to go to the interview, and he got denied anyway. I told you it was a waste of time. Her child presses her for more details like, what reason did they give for rejecting you? How did you get an appointment on Sunday even though they are closed on weekends? And she makes it pretty obvious the whole story was a fabrication and they never went to any appointments. I am getting fed up. She's obviously not going to the appointment unless someone holds her hand and takes her there. Fortunately, her third child has a lot of free time. So I cash out $1,000 and he kindly drives about 3 hours to her house. I tell her she's only getting the money from her third child if they go to the appointment with her as a witness. She takes the entitled mother's boyfriend to the appointment and surprise, they are immediately approved because he makes so little money. Third child drives back 1 hour to my house and gives me my $1,000 cash back, less gas money. There was a long conversation between her second child and her, but in conclusion she says, I'll be asking OP why she didn't have her sister leave the $1,000 she brought up with her. We'll still need to borrow money to pay the fine, and we don't have that $2,000 in a year, but with her help we could have. Her second child asks her, have you received the fine yet? You plan to pay it in full and not make payments? No fine yet, and he was told after approval that he should expect to lose his license for 6 months. I was planning to put the money in a certificate of deposit, so it could grow for a year. Except these days the percentage sucks, but it will be something. Never mind, I just found a flaw in my plan. So she has a lawyer now and doesn't need the $1,000, but she expects me to give it to her anyway, so she can put it in an investment account and make interest off of it. Several years ago, I worked data analysis in an office with a horrific proto-Karen. She was only early 30s but full of hate. Think white trash, obnoxious, loud, hypocritically malicious, and she disliked me immensely due to my speed in picking up the role and doing it well. About 2 years after I joined, with a desperate and burning desire to be a manager of literally anyone, she leaves the company for pastures anew. Many of us breathe a sigh of relief. 6 months later, she was back. I know a number of people in the industry and word woes. 4 of her 5-person new team had threatened to resign due to her behavior. Effectively wants to be in charge, not actually led. So after alienating her new team, during her probationary period, seriously, she's kicked to the curb and comes crawling back to us. Cowed, but still a cow. A couple of years later, I'm happily in a position with one of the previous company's competitors, and Dave from Business Analysis calls me up. We've got this new role to fill in. It involves some of your area and the applications you're familiar with. Can you second seat with me on the interview? Sure thing, Dave. Okay, thanks, the Dragon Dodgy. The candidate's name is XX. I am thinking, no way is this the same person. Nah, it's a pretty common name, it can't be. I asked Dave to send me the CV to prepare. And yes, it's the same person. The next day I grabbed Dave and rescued myself from the interview due to having a previous working relationship. He knows this is nonsense as she wouldn't even be working for me. Plus he can sense something's off. I said nothing, mainly to avoid any of the allegations of impropriety. But can't tell he's smelling a rat. Anyway, Dave ends up phoning me after hours and point blank asks me if this person is the best fit for the role. I told him if he hired this person, two things would happen. First, multiple people will quit that department over the next 12 months. And second, I'd immediately sign up to be a union rep. And he went with the next candidate. Karma is such a beautiful witch. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.